So, my friend, I want to ask you, have you been listening to some of my podcasts for a while and identified for yourself all the areas that you feel your business could be better in? Maybe you just are so busy you haven't yet mastered the working as much as you like bit. Or maybe you're just not bringing in the money, like you're struggling with the income, or it's just not enough. Well, it's time for us to have a conversation. In the show notes, there is a link to my Evolution call. If you're a dance boss and you are ready to take action, let's have a chat and let's see where I can take you. Hello and welcome, lovelies, to the Ultimate Dance Business Podcast. My name is Deborah Laws, the dance business expert. My passion is to help you turn your passion into profit while guiding you to work less and earn more. I'm super excited to share interviews with you that I know will inspire and motivate you in your schools, as well as my solo shows where I shall be sharing some great tips and strategies. So if you love the show, please do remember to review, subscribe, and share it with your fellow dance boss friends. So let's get stuck into the business of dance. Hey everybody, we have got the beautiful Sally with us today from Down Under. She's in Australia and we're very grateful that she stayed up late today to record this episode. Sally, welcome. Lovely to have you here with me.
Thank you. It's such a pleasure to be here.
Now, Sally, we are going to talk today all things social media. That's right, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely.
And so before we get on to social media, I'd love to know a little bit more about you, your background, and kind of where your social media interest even came from to start with.
Yeah, for sure. So I was a dance studio owner first, dance studio owner for more than 20 years, a dance teacher for more than 30 years. And then COVID came along. And so like many people, I had the opportunity at that stage to kind of decide, do I want to fight through the challenges of that and keep my studio owner open, or do I want to pivot to something else? And I had won quite a few business awards for marketing and innovation in my business. And I had friends with similar businesses and actually friends with all sorts of small businesses coming to me asking for marketing and social media advice because it was something that I did well. And I think one of the reasons I did it well is I really enjoyed it. So it was becoming a bigger passion to me than running a studio. So I pivoted into marketing. So that was in 2020. And then initially was doing marketing for everyone, for all small businesses, and then realized that my real passion is helping dance studio owners. That's what I had been for decades. And friends of mine who are in the industry were coming to me specifically because they had previously gotten help from general agencies, but general marketing agencies and social media management providers, they just don't understand the nuances of owning a dance business. So those friends of mine who understood that I knew both the industry in depth and also social media and marketing, which was now my passion. And I had previously also run dance costume wholesale businesses and retail businesses. So I had quite a broad knowledge of the dance industry. And so now here I am.
And that's so interesting because, I'm always talking to my clients and to my listeners about like niching, being really well known and become a real specialist expert in one specific area. And that doesn't mean that you can't still deliver and do other things. You might have other teachers that do other things, but you personally becoming known as a real expert in a really tight niche. And so many people have said to me, Sally, so Deborah, are you going to like expand and start serving, other children's activity providers as well as dance? Because, what I teach is really relevant for most small businesses. And I've so far, never say never, but so far I've been like, no, I really want to stay within my niche because that's where my expertise is. And as you said, that's where my passion is. And I think having that passion behind your work is so important, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I've considered the same thing, that whole do you go wider or do you go deeper in your business? And, there are gymnastics providers and yoga clubs and all those things that are similar, and really what we teach fundamentally applies to all of them. But my experience and my passion is in dance. And I always say I want to be the person I wish I had access to as a dance studio owner. So I don't actually want to move out of this industry. And I am attracting people from other performing arts spaces, drama classes and singing classes and things like that. But really my passion is in dance, and that's where my experience is as well. And so I just want to keep providing in that space, and specifically in marketing in that space.
Yeah, fantastic. So the dance school has gone. This is your full-time vocation now?
Yeah. So I still have a friend who picked up where I left off. So I closed that dance school in 2020. And then a friend of mine who was working with me at the time, she kind of restarted what I had closed, and I still help her with marketing. I don't live in the same area anymore, but in terms of running a dance studio, that's not something I even have time for anymore.
Okay, we've got you. So we're all in. Social media expert. Tell us a little bit about what it is that you do specifically for dance school owners.
Yeah, so I help with, and I help in a couple of different ways, but social media management is kind of the big thing that I do for dance studio owners, where I work one-on-one with dance studios and dance schools to elevate their presence on social media. We know how much time people spend on social media, so it's using that to funnel people into our business. And I think sometimes there's a bit of a mixed message about being on social media and really effectively utilizing social media when you're in business. So the other thing that I do is I have a membership where people can learn about the difference, really, and then have access to the tools and resources to help them to differentiate between being on social media and funneling people into their business from social media. So that encompasses so many different things. There is the optimization of bios and platforms. There's being searchable online. There's making sure we're using Google business profiles effectively, using video content effectively, using keywords and hashtags. Well, there's so many different elements to it, but I cover all of that, and really deeply in social media and in digital marketing.
That's a fantastic service that you're offering, because I know that, it's very easy to really spend a lot of time on your social media and to get very little back. It's like, if you don't know what you're doing, it can be a real kind of waste of your time. And then you just kind of go, well, what is the point? Because no one ever sees my posts. It's like, tumbleweed is what we always hear. Why is social media so hard, Sally? I'm asking this question on behalf of all my listeners. Like, why is it so hard?
It's such a good question. And I too get dance studio owners coming to me saying, I'm spending hours putting stuff out there and I feel like I'm getting no return. And obviously, as a business owner, you want that return on investment, right? Whether you're investing time or money, you want it to come back to you. So one of the fundamentals, and honestly, the biggest mistake I see with dance studio owners, is that a lot of what they're doing, a lot of their effort on social media, is content about them instead of content about their customer. And I think that small difference alone makes a massive difference to the return on what you're putting out there. So, quick example. I had someone coming to me recently who wanted me to look at their paid ads, and the image was beautiful. The creative was great, which, let's face it, we're creative people, dance studio owners. So usually the visual is really good. But in the caption, it was all about them. So it listed all the amazing things about the studio, all the qualified teacher, the exams that they offered, the performance opportunities, but none of it related back to the customer. So the big tip that I gave them, that I give most people when they're writing copy and captions and putting content out on social media, is to ask the question that subconsciously most people are asking themselves, which is, what's in it for me? So when you have someone reading or looking through your social content, step into their shoes and ask the question, what's in it for me? So that's a very cute preschool dancer. What's in it for me? That's a beautiful contemporary senior student. What's in it for me? So turning it around And yes, you want to be an authority in your field. So you want really beautiful content of your best dancers, but you'll also want parents to resonate with the content and say, oh, my child belongs there. So I think that's the biggest difference between doing social media and making that social media work for you and bring a return, which is to make it about your clients and your customers.
Mm. And, that's brought up a thought from something you said earlier on, actually, around the two different aspects really of social media, because a lot of people feel like, social media is all about the marketing and gaining more students. And of course, that is the main reason why we're on social media. But actually, there's also that element where we want people to just get to know our schools. We want them to get to know, what does this feel like? What's their values? What's the vibe on their page or their group? Is it this type of school or is it this type of school? I read a statistic somewhere that said that people go to social media to check you out now way before they even go and find your website. Is that something that you've heard?
Yeah, absolutely. And the other it's really interesting statistic that is moving pretty quickly is once upon a time, we all went to Google first. Now more and more people are going to social platforms to search for local businesses. So making sure that A, you're visible, and B, the content that you have there is the right content to attract your ideal client in, making sure that you cover those bases. And then, like you said, that number one goal for most dance studios is fill classes, grow business, get bigger. But there are actually a whole lot of other goals that go into social media. So brand awareness, values awareness, and this overarching thing that I like to call top of mind marketing, where if someone was newly moving into your area and they were new to the area and they asked around, what's a great activity for kids? You want people, whether they've been to your dance studio or not, to recommend you just because they've seen you a lot on social media. So that top of mind marketing is actually really, really important.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we mentioned a little bit there about, people getting a feel for your school. A great example would be, for example, if you're posting pictures of your kids looking immaculate at a competition, and the only thing you ever post is kind of them all dressed up, about to go on stage or about to compete or winning cups. But actually, that's only a really small part of your studio, and it's not your main goal or emphasis. You're not really a competition school, but that's, you only post pics when they look really tidy and smart. So people will look at that and think, oh, they're just a competition school. Like that's the majority of what they do. So it's really important that our social media is a true representation of what our school actually is, isn't it?
Yeah, totally. And also that we can resonate. So you want that parent with the scruffy kid who's never looking immaculate to feel like they belong in your studio. And if the only content they're seeing is perfectly groomed, makeup, beautiful costumes, immediately, whether they're consciously or subconsciously thinking it, they don't belong.
Yeah.
So making sure, and let's face it, most dance businesses are trying to attract preschoolers or recreational level children. So making sure parents of those kids can resonate and see themselves in your business is really important.
Oh, gosh. We literally, I had this conversation with someone literally the other day. It might have been in my membership. It might have come up. We were talking about creating a performance team. We're going to sidetrack a tiny bit for a minute from social media, but I can have this conversation with you because you're an ex-dance studio owner. We were talking about having a performance team that was non-competitive. So we were talking about going and being able to perform and promote at kind of locals, fairs and fetes and carnivals and that kind of thing. And one studio owner was saying, but, my comp team do so much already. I don't think I can get them to go along and do these things as well. And I said, well, don't use your comp team. I said, just use your average kids in your school that don't normally get a chance maybe to be in your competition or your competitions, or maybe parents don't want that level of commitment, but they're happy to do the odd fair. I said, because one of the things that I always see is that people will only put themselves out there in public when the kids are their best dancers, or they look immaculately groomed, or they've got stunning costumes. And of course, we want everyone to look at us and think that we are going to be an amazing school. But actually, that parent that's standing there with a scruffy tomboy little girl who just kind of wants to go and do some hip hop and wants to, can't see themselves. They can't relate at all to what they're seeing, this beautifully groomed, well-trained competition team. Sometimes it's good to go out into the public and just show a true representation of your average child, whatever that average child looks like. Because then parents look, don't they? And they kind of go, oh, I could see my little Billy in that group. Or, oh, I think my daughter would fit in well with that little team. And I don't think sometimes we realize that our whole goal when we do these things, whether it's social media or in-person events, the whole goal is that people look at us, see us, love what we're doing, and make an inquiry. Like, that's it, isn't it? That's the nutshell of this first touch point.
Absolutely. And kind of the tough love around that only putting your best dancers on show is that actually that's about us again, right? That's about our ego and making sure that we seem to be the best. Whereas if what we really want is more kids in our classes, more kids loving dance, more kids reaping the rewards that dance brings, getting more kids in classes is about making it relatable for everyone, right? And we often say that, but does our social media and our marketing represent that? And the other place I often notice where there's kind of a mismatch sometimes is the homepage of people's websites, where they have their best dancers, their best video choreography, all their senior, comp students. Whereas if a parent of a scruffy toddler lands on your website, you want to have something there somewhere where they go, oh, I belong here. This is for me.
Yeah.
So, putting our ego aside, making it not about us, making it about those parents and those kids. And if you're doing performances at local fairs where kids are, you want the kids to resonate too, right? You want them to see, oh, I belong there. I could go there. But again, if it's your best students with the best flexibility and the most advanced technique, there's almost a wall immediately and they go, well, I don't belong. Yeah. So, being able to understand how that works in terms of a marketing event is really important.
Well, there you go. I hope that there are a whole bunch of people listening that are kind of going, okay, Sally and Deborah have given me permission to not always have my perfect kids out there looking amazing. And actually, it might even help me more. And I think, this is a really important part of this conversation, because I think, if people land on your social media pages and they get a true there's actual kids, what the kids normally look like running around in your church hall or in your studio, rather than this is what they look like when they're ready to go into an exam, and they're all prepped, ready and standing beautifully in their tidiest new leotard. Like it's just becomes a bit intimidating for parents, doesn't it? And we want you to represent yourselves authentically, I think, is what we've been saying. So absolutely. That's a great tip, I think, right there. How, Sally, do we keep up with all the ongoing changes, the algorithm changes, then now you should do it this way, now it should be reels, now it should be video. It's a lot, isn't it? When someone's not, you're obviously learning and studying all the time so that you keep current and fresh for your clients. But how does the dance school owner possibly keep up when it's not top of their priority list?
Yes, such a good question. I don't know. So, to be honest, often I'll go into the back end of Meta and something's changed, and it's only because I'm in there every day that I know it's changed. There's been no announcement. There's no email, hey, this thing's changed. Here's what's going on now. I just stumble across it. So, of course, I let everyone in my community know that it's changed if it's important. But for the most part, honestly, so the biggest advice I can give you is this. If you concentrate on messaging that is about your target audience and you concentrate on content that is about attracting the right people to your studio, you kind of can't go wrong. So if you kind of stick to that really good messaging, content that is relatable to your ideal customer, then the rest of it is kind of noise most of the time. Mm. We know video works. So I'm a big advocate of video, but beyond messaging and great targeting to your ideal client, there's a lot of noise that most of the time doesn't make a lot of difference.
Mm. Yeah. And talking of content, do you have any top tips in terms of posting the type of content that's going to really work?
Yeah. One of my top tips for studio owners is leave perfectionism at the door. So
as we've just been talking about, yeah.
Right? So often I talk to dance studio owners who say, I've got a phone full of content, but like I have to check the techniques right. I have to check like that no one's putting out content with a dodgy foot, and I have to make sure the alignment's beautiful. And for me, I'm like, no. A parent doesn't even notice any of those things. Just get it out. So one of my top tips is think less, get content out more. And if you've got the content sitting on your phone, publish. Don't leave it there. If you've got all of that content sitting there, get it on your social platforms. So that's kind of my top tip, is leave perfectionism at the door and get your content out there. My second tip is keywords. So what I mean by keywords is what someone might type into Google to find what you do. So usually it's something like dance classes and your location, or dance classes near me, or toddler ballet classes. It depends on what you're targeting, but making sure those words are in the captions of your content. Like I said earlier, more and more people are using social platforms over Google to find local services and businesses. So making sure those keywords are in your content is really important to getting found.
And do those keywords have to be hashtags, Sally, or just the words alone are good enough?
Oh, better. So the keywords as part of your caption. So for example, I could say, these kids were amazing in class tonight. There's not much in there that someone's searching for. But if I said, these kids did amazing in their acrobatics dance class at Sally's dance studio in Smithwood tonight, all of a sudden I put a heap of keywords in there that make that content really searchable. And the hashtags, while hashtags can work for you, the keywords are much more important.
That's so interesting. I'm making notes here. Like, I'm going to go back and listen to this and make notes for myself. That is so interesting. Really, really great tip. Amazing. Any more? Do we have a top third tip?
Yes. My top third tip is consistency. It's just pick what works for you. So I won't give you, this is how you must do it, because I understand that how you run your studio is very, very specific to what season of your business you're in, what level of growth you're at, what resources you have available to you. But if what you can manage is one post a week, then consistently get that one post a week out. If what you can manage is 3 posts a week and a couple of stories, then be consistent and do it every week. Because what we know for sure is if you do that consistently for 7 weeks and then don't do it for 3, the last 7 weeks almost don't matter. The consistency is really, really important. So pick something that's going to work for you and then stick with it.
So I thought I would just share with you guys today the planners that I have produced for dance school owners, because these are flying out of Amazon like hotcakes. And if you don't have yours yet, then all you have to do is pop to Amazon and type into the search Deborah Laws, and all 3 books will come up. So the Ultimate Dance Business Planner I designed for you so that you had a little bit of a Deborah on your desktop. The planners are full of business training, tips, motivational quotes, things to do at the start of the month, things to do at the end of the month, ways in which you can plan out your marketing and your retention, and they are selling all over the world. So go to Amazon, grab your #1 best-selling Ultimate Dance Business Planner and enjoy mapping out the growth for your studio. And would you go as far as to say even roughly the same day and time each week in terms of consistency?
I would, to start with, and then I'd measure. So if what I'm finding is, I'm just not getting no one's liking it, no one's kind of looking at it, I'd change the day or I'd change the time. So testing is also really important because, as we mentioned before, social media and the algorithms around social media change all the time. So what worked last year may not work this year. So yes, to answer your question, but I would be testing it pretty regularly.
Yeah. And I don't think people look at their insights enough, do they? Tell us about insights.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Look, dance studio owners are so busy anyway, so I understand that sometimes they don't. That's where someone like me can be really useful. So if you're going to hire a social media manager, make sure they're looking at that data for you and they're testing against the data and measuring and letting you know. But depending on what your content is doing, so your content might be addressing your top of funnel, so people who don't really know you. your middle of funnel, people who kind of know you and want to know more, or your bottom of funnel, which are the people who are it's generally your students already. So there are different metrics depending on which part of the funnel your content is addressing. Top of funnel, it's those what are often called vanity metrics, which are likes, shares, saves, things like that. And then middle of funnel, it's more like clicks. Are people clicking on this? Are they watching my video the whole way through? Are they saving it? And then bottom, it's usually a conversion. Are they clicking the link? Are they filling out the form? So knowing what metrics to track and why they're important is kind of number one. Number two, actually doing it. And then number three, testing against those results. So if those results don't look great, try something else. And then do those results look better than the last results? Great, we stick with that. If they don't, we go back to what we were. So just start by measuring. Start by knowing what you're measuring and actually checking those things. And again, consistently. So if what you can manage is once a month, then do it once a month.
Yeah. Great advice. I'm loving all these tips that we're all picking up here. With regards to like the management service that you offer, you mentioned there kind of letting us know, do you send out a report at the end of a month to say, this is how it's going, this is what you need to do a bit more of, this isn't working great, change your tactic? Do you give kind of advice as part of your service?
Yeah, definitely. So you'll find different social media managers do things very differently. But for me, and again, being a studio owner and knowing how time poor studio owners are, I provide a report, but I also provide a quick video going through the report and saying, hey, this is the thing that really matters. And what this number here is telling you is ABC. And my recommendation is XYZ. So I kind of get to the fundamentals of that data and just let you know what you can do to improve it to achieve your goals. So when I take on a new client, we always start with goals. What is it you want to achieve? And then what I'm tracking and what I'm looking for in your analytics each month will relate back to those goals. And then I'll let you know how you can improve to get closer to them.
Sounds amazing. Sounds fantastic. And can I just ask you now about the difference between a page and a group? Should we have both? I know they're very different kind of strategies for each of those, but should the average dance school have both? Or if they don't need both, which should they have?
So page, absolutely on Facebook. And your page is where your advertising comes from. So if you want to do paid ads, you need a page that has consistent content going out on it. It's that shop front. So if you have a brick and mortar store, or you have your dance studio, it's the shop front, it's the signage, it's the stuff that people see from the outside. Your group is like your community room inside your dance studio. So your group is where you can have regular notices for your VIPs or for your customers. It's where you can communicate with your students, but it's really not about attracting new people. So your group is really about nurturing your community of the people who are already with you. Your page is your shop front for getting new people through the door. So if you don't have time for both, page, absolutely page first. That's where you start. Once you have time, and usually what I say is once you can outsource your social media, if it's to someone in your team, if it's to a senior student that you know is pretty savvy, then I'd get a group on board. But page first, definitely.
Fantastic. And how do we avoid the I'm posting like mad and I don't get any likes or comments? I feel like nobody's listening. It's the tumbleweed situation. Why does that happen, and how can we avoid that?
So it's a couple of things. And honestly, I don't like giving an overarching, this is the issue for everyone, because it's really going to depend on your business, on what content you're posting, on who your target audience is. Usually what I find is a mismatch between the content that you're publishing and what you want to achieve. And as we kind of talked about earlier, kind of full circle, usually you're posting content that's all about you when what you really want is to be posting content about your ideal client. So that's usually what I find is happening there when we're getting really low metrics. The other thing that it can be is there's too much text on your visuals. And if you think about what you scroll through on a mobile phone, think about what stands out to you. And this is a really good habit that I get studio owners to go through. When you're scrolling on your phone on socials, take a screenshot when something catches your eye, and then start noticing what is the same about the things that are catching my eye. And you'll usually find it's a really great visual with not a lot of text that is standing out and stopping the scroll. So if you're finding you're getting low numbers, that's where I'd start. is my content about me or about my target audience? And am I making really scroll stopping visuals in my content?
Oh, that's just such fabulous advice. And so, I mean, I heard recently, I don't know if you agree, that it's kind of like reels all the way at the moment. Like the more across all platforms, like if you can post short 30-second reels, that's the highest performing. Is that correct?
Yeah, anything under 30 seconds video, short form content. I recently, for a client, I think it was a 9-second reel, something very simple. It was acro with trending music, 1.3 million views it got, which drove so many followers to her page.
Wow.
Then it's, what do you do? There's a whole other podcast about what do you do once you get a viral reel, but we didn't overthink it. There was no editing. It was a quick video, trending music, but it stood out straight away and was short. So the shorter the better. If you think about the attention span that you have, let alone anyone else has, short is really good.
That's amazing. I can't imagine having that many views on anything I do. I feel like I'd need to jump off a roof into a bowl of jelly to get that many views. We've talked predominantly kind of Facebook so far, but what about the other platforms, Instagram, TikTok? Like, do you think we should be doing all the things? Is that really important?
No, in fact, I recommend don't do all of the things, because
that's good.
unless you have a full-time media person, you can't do all of the things well. You can kind of half do all of the things, but you won't get a return on the investment. So I usually say pick one platform first. And for most people, that's usually Facebook or Instagram, and then nail that. When that is going really well and you have it optimized and your content is performing, then expand. And for most people, it's usually both of those. Facebook and Instagram is where they start. And from there, if someone is ready, it would be TikTok or YouTube, mostly because short form video. So those platforms are perfect for reusing that same content.
So if actually you get that right on Facebook or Instagram and you're creating that short form video content, that's then super easy to repurpose, isn't it, into some of the other more visual platforms. So it's about getting that bit right to make it a bit easier when you're trying to do multiple platforms. Just going back quickly, something that I find really interesting topic here, because I find that there's a real divide, a real split. And when I'm coaching and I'm talking about this, I always say to people, you don't have to. Like, I appreciate that this is a very personal thing, but this would be my advice if you just want to utilize Facebook the best you can. Using your personal profile. I am amazed how many people, for example, that may ask to join my group. I always go and check them out. I try and make sure that they are a dance school owner. And so I click on their personal profile and there's pictures of cats and dogs, and it doesn't say what they do. There's no website. There's nothing on their profile to show that they're any kind of way, shape or form in the dance industry, which is fine, because some people want that personal profile to just be family and close friends. Would you say that they're missing a real trick there?
I would. So I think, as much as we like to say on my personal social media profile is just for me, I think a little bit, let's get real. It's on social media. So it's out in the world. And if you're not utilizing that, because dance studio owners are celebrities in their own niche, right? Yeah. So they are very well known in their communities usually. They get, like me, if I step back into communities where I've taught or owned studios, I'm still called Miss Sally in the street, because that was my dance teacher name. I'd be crazy not to utilize that. And whilst you can set your profile to not show everything to everyone, I think having a banner photo that highlights what studio you're part of, having links to your social platforms and website in your personal profile, about you section, highlighting special offers, events on your profile. I think all of that is kind of you just leaving money on the table by not doing it, right? It's crazy not to, because let's face it, you over time also create friends and a network of people that are past or current students. And one of the really neat things on Facebook is you can create a custom friends list where you put all those people into a list. And you can actually show posts just to those people on Facebook. So there are lots of tips and tricks. And my advice, whilst I agree, very personal decision, totally up to you, I think you are definitely leaving money on the table by not utilizing your personal profile.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, but I just know some people are like, oh, no, Deborah, that's just for personal life, and that doesn't mean to say you have to share, everything about your school on your personal page, but even just having a link to your website and a link to your dance school Facebook page, I think is, like you say, leaving money there on the table, because some people may not know the name of your school, but they know your name. And so they could even be searching for you first before they search for your dance school. They know about that person that runs the school, can't quite remember what the school's called. And they're searching you, and then they come across a Sally Pendergrass, and then they're like, is that the right one? I don't know. I don't know if I don't want to message that person. So I think it's it amazes me how many people either are purposely choosing not to, and of course that's fine, but those people that maybe aren't aware that they're not making themselves searchable by having those. And it's only a case of having a couple of links that they can then click through to find all your business stuff, isn't it? So
yes.
Yeah, another tip for you. I hope you guys are all making notes, or you're going to go back and we'll listen to this again and make lots more notes, because there's some real gold coming out here today. With regards to Facebook ads, now this is something that you do separate to the management, isn't it? You can actually set up and create and manage and run ads for dance school owners, which is amazing, because we don't know what we're doing, and obviously you do. I hear such a conflict from people in terms of, I fill my classes with ads. Like, I have ads running all the time. I just have a monthly spend. I just keep that information dripping out there. One of my members gets, 30 to 40 trials booked every month because she's got paid ads just rolling constantly in the background. I've got other people that have said, I spent £500 and I only got 2 inquiries and they were no good. Like, waste of money. I would never do it again. Now, What are your thoughts here, Sally?
This one is not simple. So what I generally find is people who have said, I've tried paid ads and they haven't worked for me, there's a number of things that can be going on. Usually it starts with the whole back end of Meta is not set up well to serve them. And what I mean by that is there's a difference between the Meta Business Suite and the Meta Business Manager. So is your Meta Business Manager set up? Is your Ads Manager set up? Is your Pixel set up properly? Are your target audiences set up properly? There's a whole ecosystem of stuff in the back end that kind of needs to be set up well before even considering paid ads. The other part of that puzzle is don't do paid ads until your organic, free social media content is consistent and working well for you. So if you're posting sporadically and not getting much interest, your paid ads won't do well. End of story. Because you've already told the algorithm that people are not interested in your content. So you really want your organic social media to be working well before you invest in paid ads. In saying that, there are ways to make the system work for you. So they're kind of the top two. Is the system set up properly for you to do well? And then are you already doing well with your organic content? From there, the paid ads themselves, there are so many. And anyone who tells you paid ads on social is simple is crazy. That it's not. Again, it changes all the time. But also there are a lot of different ways to be able to put paid ads together. So in terms of targeting, in terms of where you're sending people, in terms of the copywriting, in terms of the visuals, in terms of testing, in terms of what data, what metrics should I be watching, there's lots of different pieces to that puzzle. So again, usually if someone said to me, I've tried paid ads that haven't worked, and I start asking questions, they look at me blankly because they don't even know what I'm talking about. And I would say get someone who knows the industry and knows marketing to have a look at it for you, because at least then you're getting the right information, And whilst you can do it yourself, if you don't know what data to be looking for and you don't know what could be causing your ads not to work well, then you're kind of in a forest without a map anyway. So you getting help is kind of my best advice from someone who knows how it works.
Wow, there is a lot to think about there. And it kind of makes sense when some people are saying, I've tried it and it just didn't work for me, because there are so many things that could be wrong in terms of the setup, the content, what they're trying to deliver. And that was really interesting. That's a new one for me that I've learned there. Make sure that your page is currently, working fairly well for you in terms of the organic stuff, because if that's really dead and you only post once a month, then the ads really just aren't going to do much for you either. That's a super interesting point there.
Yeah. You could have to spend more essentially to get your ads to work if your organic's not right. Yeah.
Yeah. Got you. I've got you. And so the good news is, and this is the really exciting bit, that you and I have to share, is that we have decided to kind of work together a little bit, haven't we? So, I so loved, what you do, Sally, and how you do it and your background. So relevant to my audience, to my listeners, to my clients, to my members. That we've put together you've put together some rather fantastic packages in terms of the different areas that you help with in social media. I think they're extremely reasonably priced. I'd like to thank you for giving us such great prices. Would you like to just mention what those packages look like? You don't have to give the pricing. People can find that. But just in terms of what it is that we/you are offering.
Yeah, for sure. I kind of put it into 4 different buckets because I went back to my clients and said, what were the 4 areas that you struggled with the most? So we have content management. So that's me taking care of your content for you from someone who understands dance, who understands social media and can make that work for you. We've got a paid ads management package where I can take care of your ads for you, as we just mentioned. Extremely useful if you don't know how all that works. We have a meta setup package where I can go into the back end and make sure everything is connected properly, set up properly, so that when you are doing your social and paid ads, you know that the back end is working well. And then we have what's called a profile audit, where I can go in and check your platforms, whatever they are, and let you know if you're making the most of your profile. So do you have the right keywords in there? Are you sending the right messaging? Is the copywriting the best it can be? Have you filled out all the correct areas to make sure that your profile is getting you the best return? So those are the 4 packages, and I'm really excited about it too, because we have made it really accessible to everyone, which is great.
Yeah. And if you want to go and find them and have a little look at what that all involves and the price, it's www.dancebusinesssolutions.com. dancebusinesssolutions.com, and just go to our social media, and then you'll find a little bit of information about Sally and the packages and the pricing, and you can just go straight ahead and purchase one of those. And I'm really excited to see how that works out for everybody, because I think it's difficult to find someone that is kind of trusted and is niched into our area. So everyone go and check that out. And Sally, it's been so interesting today. Like, I always think I know quite a lot about social media, spend a lot of time learning about it, talking to other experts, going to events where you pick up tips, but there's still always new things to learn. And I've definitely got a bunch of notes that I'm going to go back over my profiles and check a few things. So thank you for your generosity with sharing all of that with us today. And what I like to just finish each of my podcasts with is just a few quick fire questions that are just a bit about you personally. Are you up for these quick fire questions?
Absolutely. Hit me.
Okay. So the key here, this is just a bit of fun to finish with. The key here is to answer as quickly as you can without thinking about it too much. So everyone gets nervous at this point. I'll try and keep them nice and simple. Okay, we'll go with an easy one to start with. What's your favorite dance genre?
Oh, hip hop.
Hip hop.
Yeah.
And what's your favorite mountain view?
Oh, mountain view. Oh, I don't have one.
Okay, favorite place in the world then to go and visit?
Currently, West Australian beaches. All of them.
All of them. Anyone on the Western coast. Something on your bucket list that you're hoping to do in the next couple of years?
Something on my bucket list, or travel to the UK. I've only been once, so I'd love to come over again.
Come in August, and then you can come and meet us all at the Dance Business Conference.
Maybe next year.
Yeah, absolutely. Something that you want to achieve in business in the next 5 years?
Helping more people worldwide, and when I say more people, dance studio owners, to use social media effectively to get more people in their dance classes and loving dance.
Brilliant. And if you had an extra 15 minutes in every day, how would you spend it?
Oh, walking on the beaches in Western Australia.
I feel
Honestly,
like that needs to be a goal, having a house on a beach in Western Australia.
Beautiful. I've spent my whole life on the east coast of Australia and moved here a year ago, and I didn't think you could get beaches better than the east coast, and Western Australia is just spectacular.
Wow. That's good to know. And then the last question, if you could spend 15 minutes with somebody that's no longer here, could be a celebrity, a family member, who would you spend that time with and why?
Well, I'm going to get a bit personal on this one. So I never met my biological father. So it would be my dad, I think, just to find out a bit more about me. That would be my 15 minutes.
Oh, fantastic. Sally, it's been such a pleasure. I've really enjoyed listening and learning from you today. Thank you so much for staying up and coming on the podcast today. I hope everybody else has got lots of wonderful tips. And do come find Sally on dancebusinesssolutions.com. Big old plug on this podcast today, but hey, why not? We only want to help everybody at the end of the day, don't we? It's been such a pleasure. Thank you, Sally.
Thank you.
So, my friend, I want to ask you, have you been listening to some of my podcasts for a while and identified for yourself all the areas that you feel your business could be better in? Maybe you just are so busy you haven't yet mastered the working as much as you like bit. Or maybe you're just not bringing in the money, like you're struggling with the income, or it's just not enough. Well, it's time for us to have a conversation. In the show notes, there is a link to my Evolution call. If you're a dance boss and you are ready to take action, let's have a chat and let's see where I can take you.